It's alive!
How do we know she is alive?
I hate when people talk during the movie.
No wire hangers ever!
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Your stupid minds! Stupid! Stupid!
Relax. It's all in bad taste.
Hello everyone and welcome to Aftertaste, the Bad Taste Buds supplementary show where we continue to talk trash about your favourite best worst films. Today I am joined by the ever lovely Ryan as we settle in. We're actually doing something a little bit different today. We're actually filming these out of order. Like normally we do our 0.5 recordings right after our main episode, but we decided why the fuck not do it before, because we had a little bit of spare time. So a little bit different. So we might be referring to a few things that might be a bit confusing, a bit out of context. It will all make sense if you have listened to the main episode first. Hannah and Jack are not here. They have yet to arrive. They've got better fucking things to do, apparently. Apparently. So we're going to let them off with a warning this time. But instead of them, fuck them. Who needs them? We have actually got our very special guest for this cycle. You will have heard him on the main episode, but I'll introduce him again. My podcasting bro from another mo, Harry fucking Levison from the Pick and Mix podcast. How are you doing, buddy?
Hi, bud. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really excited to be
Finally
on this podcast. I mean, obviously, this is my second appearance on the podcast, technically. But as this is my actual first appearance, I'm really excited.
This is your moment. This is your big.
This is make or break for me. I might get axed. So, like, this
if you shit on this one, you might even be on the main
exactly.
episode.
I might just be sent home with Hannah and Jack. I'll just tap out.
I'm excited for your big opening.
You cover all my weak spots. That's what you're here for.
Well, we have actually.
It's the only time anyone's ever excited for my big opening.
I mean, me and you go way back. We will have talked about this in the main episode, so I won't go too far into it. But I have brought you in because you are our resident Marvel fanboy, more or less. Like you're the guy I go to if I need Marvel advice or Marvel recommendations or just to like understand the comics. I mean, I know we've been watching like the TV shows together, haven't we? Well, I said together. We always talk about them together, and you're like filling me in with gaps. Like this person's related to this person, or this is a reference to that, and I do appreciate that, man.
Yeah, that is pretty much my job in life. I think just to tell everyone what characters are who. The only problem is like Howard the Duck I know nothing about.
That's cool. I mean, if it helps, none of us.
You're in good company.
Yeah, we're all in good company.
So it literally comes into it, and I'm just like, here's our expert who knows nothing about this subject.
If it helps, we had Tom on. Our last guest, Tom, had a fucking clue about 13 Ghosts. He never even fucking seen it, had he? Right. You don't have to be an expert to be an A. You just have to be enthusiastic, and you know.
I'm enthusiastic.
Well, literally before you came in here, you were talking to me about like you might be turning me on to bad films. Like we had this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Oh, don't do it. Get out now while you can.
We were talking about Psycho Gorman, and I was saying how fucking fun. By the way,
that's fucking excellent.
Plug for Psycho Gorman. If you haven't seen it, it's fucking wonderful. And you were saying, "Oh, that looks right up my alley," weren't you?
Yeah. So basically, Liam, like in our podcast group chat, Liam posted this picture of the DVD box.
DVD cover, yeah.
And I just went, what? I put a gif in like, what the fuck is this? Because that is normally my reaction to these type of films. And then I watched the trailer that Liam sent over, and I was like, oh, what's happening to me? I'm not normally into these type of films. Like, I like literally, I look at them as bad films and think, don't want to watch them. But now, I mean, we watched Old recently, which is, I guess, a bad taste film.
Bad film. We'll get there.
And I'm like literally at the point now where I'm like, I think I like bad movies.
One of us.
Yeah.
One of us.
I might have to just cancel my podcast because, like, mainstream movies now just don't interest me.
That's fair. I brought you here also to get pissed off at a lot of our fan base because they don't like Marvel movies as well. Which I say a lot of them. I think you'll be surprised by the polls. Like, it's not as bad as it looks. I think when you saw it, you were like, "Fuck them."
Yeah, I think one of my response to one of them was, I think like 72% of people need to get a fucking life.
That's what it was.
But
are we
allowed to swear, by the way, on this? I don't.
No. This is a completely swearless podcast. PG only.
Fudge.
I mean, like one of our best episodes, Mac and Me episode. There was like a dad and his little girl watching the film as they were listening to the podcast, and we were like, right, let's be really PC.
We tried so hard.
They were just swearing throughout the entire fucking thing. Like it's a swear zone. You're in a swear zone.
I'm quite cheeky because whenever you upload your podcast somewhere and it says it's clean or
explicit. Yeah.
I'm just like, I always put clean. And like a lot of my stuff isn't clean. But yeah, I'm going to try not to ridicule your fans too much because obviously I want someone to come and listen to my shit.
They're used to it, mate. But yeah, do check us out because obviously you kind of got me.
Well, Liam's a mainstay on my podcast, so if you like listening to Liam, come listen to Liam with me.
That's a dangerous invitation. Do we like listening to Liam?
who can tell really at this point?
Well, if not, I'll just get Ryan
nuts.
to replace him.
There's your
There
start.
we go.
So I think we're ready to do a little bit of Marvel deep dives. I won't lie, I only managed to really skim the surface of Howard the Duck history, because we were going to do a history of Howard and some Marvel questions. We're probably going to focus a little bit more on the Marvel questions, if I'm being honest, because Howard the Duck's difficult to actually understand. I will do a little bit of history. Feel free to jump in whenever you
Please
want, lads
do.
and lasses.
I'll get you back.
You'll get a history. The thing is, you guys will have a leg up on Hannah and Jack, because they'll go into Howard the Duck knowing fuck all. That's why you should be here on time.
Yeah.
Oh, so the character was created and written by Steve Gerber and the artist Val Mykerick. Howard the Duck first appeared in Adventure into Fear, number 19. It was in 1973, so he's actually not that old. When I first got into this, I was assuming he would be a little bit older. And genuinely, they're very, from what I could tell anyway, they're biting social satires mixed with a lot of noir.
Oh, well, in that first episode appearance, it was a Man-Thing comic.
Yeah, it's weird.
And he's just meant to be a visual gag for the one episode,
Yeah.
and Marvel was just like, yep, he's done his time now. We really hate him. Kill him off. No particular reason why, but kill them off, and fans were pretty pissed about it.
I don't blame them. It was weird because I actually bought the Adventures into Fear on Google Play. I read about 4 chapters, and he's not really in the first 3. He's kind of right. He's like a side character. He's like a bit of a joke. And then issue 4, just is entirely on him. And it kind of switches, and I almost wonder whether or not there was a little bit of fan backlash to him being killed off. Either way, he's stuck around.
Someone sent a dead duck in to express their dismay at his death.
Fucking excuse me.
Yeah.
That's quackers.
Oh.
I mean, if it was crispy, I'd be happy with
I was
that.
going to say, if it was a cooked duck, then that might be a present.
Maybe just someone got their takeaway order to the wrong address.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just a Chinese
And
order.
then first you were like, they don't like that we killed him. It's not that someone just got their Chinese order
I would
wrong.
just keep killing and getting more and more Chineses. Yeah, so yeah, 1973 is when it premiered. But it's weird though, because he has stuck around. Harry, again, with modern Marvel, we're seeing a bit of a Howard the Duck almost resurgence. He's popping up every now and again.
I mean, no surprise he appears in the Guardians.
That's the one.
I think that's where he belongs.
Was that voice? I'm pretty sure that was voiced by Seth Green as well. I might be completely fucking that up, but I'm pretty sure Seth Green does that. Because it's just a cameo, isn't it? It's like a post-credit scene. He's in Guardians.
Yeah, I mean, you see him. I think you see him in Nowhere, don't you?
Yeah,
and then he's also in the second one where the Ravagers are having a party.
He's coming back. He's not.
Yeah.
We haven't forgotten about Howard somehow, but he's also in. He's going to be in What If, from what I could tell.
So that'd be cool for him.
I mean, they never really forgot about Howard. He ended up coming back, and it was during the period where the CDC?
Yeah.
They'd released a lot of rules and chilled out a bit, and then they were like, right, have some more mature content. Ghost Rider came out, things around that era had satanic themes, etc. And Howard the Duck came out, and he was,
satanic.
But it was a bit more weird, a bit more out there, and they were just brought him back to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And fans like him, but Disney didn't.
Yeah, but Disney didn't.
Disney didn't, as Disney
Oh no, because they tried to
doesn't
sue him
do.
a bunch. Because he has such a resemblance to Donald, right? That was a big issue.
Yeah, when it translates to other countries, they just kind of see Duck, and just when they see Duck, they automatically that's Donald.
Yeah.
So when they saw Howard, they started buying it thinking it was Donald, and Disney got pissed off about it.
I think they asked him to put pants on him. That was the big caveat. Once he had pants, it wasn't a copyright issue anymore.
Human
Disney thing to
talk.
do.
It's such a Disney thing
Right.
to
We
do.
own ducks, guys.
I know we own everything. We own you. We own your.
So where do they fall with Daffy?
I don't actually know because Daffy doesn't wear anything.
No, he's just,
Right?
he's
He's
just all
fully
black.
Starkers. Not even a shirt.
But he's also a black duck as well.
Which you think would make Disney more angry with their history.
That's it. Do you think that? Yeah, I think it was the similarities. But again, Howard smokes. He totes a gun. He wasn't too family friendly. I don't know why Disney had such an issue, but I mean, we saw that with Mac and Me as well. We saw that with the McDonald's crossover with Disney trying to oust Mac and Me for that. Disney always somehow end up back on this podcast.
Yeah,
Very strange.
it's literally they were just being petty, more or less. A few people buying Howard the Duck and they're getting confused with Donald overseas. Fuck that, we're shutting that down.
Yeah.
But Marvel were just you know what? Who fucking cares? Let's just change it. It's not worth a massive lawsuit.
Yeah.
So they switched it up, and Gerber was fucking pissed.
Yeah. I mean, Gerber himself has said that the joke behind Howard the Duck is that there's no joke, and it's meant to just be kind of one of those, it's just ridiculous existential kind of absurdism. There's not really meant to be a joke there. It's a stupid talking duck who solves mysteries. That's the whole point.
If anything,
If you're looking too much into it, you're kind of missing the point.
If anything, it's far more socially conscious as a comic
Yeah.
than it is actually comedic.
Oh, yeah.
He's a duck from outer space, so when he comes to Earth, he's
Yeah.
Why the fuck do you do that?
Yeah.
That's weird. And he just points out weird things in society.
He's almost maybe like the audience avatar, really, isn't it? Like, what's going on? This is a social commentary on how fucked up the world is. But he's appeared in a fuck ton of Marvel things. Like, I'm literally have a list in front of me of the different Howard the Duck appearances. So he's appeared in, and I'm going to read these out and have no fucking clue what any of these are. Like, obviously, I've heard of like Heroes Reborn, Civil War, Secret Invasion, Marvel Zombies, Fear Itself. Spider-Man back in Quack, which I wonder is a specific. That's great.
Oh, actually, yeah. No, that's a good story.
The Ducky Dozen, Wolverine and the X-Men, or Original Sin, Back to New York, Civil War 2, War of the Realms. So these, I mean, I've heard of. I mean, obviously, Civil War was a big Marvel property when they did that as a film. I don't know much about it, but he has appeared in these.
It's different. It's slightly different to the comic book, but he hasn't got a main part in it.
Yeah, I can't imagine he would do it. It's all like cameos, isn't it? He just appears and just shows up.
Yeah, eventually he just went back to being the visual gag he was always intended to be.
Yeah. But as you said, Ryan, he appeared in Adventures into Fear, the Man-Thing run. He's introduced to the Marvel. In his introduction, he has very little actual explanation as to why he kind of appears. I think he's almost like blinked into reality by this other character. Jennifer Kale. He's blinked into reality by this character, Jennifer Kale, who I have no idea who this fucker is. And she kind of creates them because she's like creating different universes or something, or she's fucking with different universes. She fucks with the fabric of different universes and therefore births Howard. I honestly have no fucking clue. I was trying to read it, just baffled out my fucking mind.
Births or birds?
Births. Birds works too. I like that. But yeah, well, from what I could glom, I read about 4 issues. Howard just seems like a sarcastic little prick the whole way through, most of them, barely helping and offering very little other than getting in the way.
That's Howard. Well, if he's getting in the way, he's normally running away, so that's a change of pace.
Yeah. He just pistol whip a demon at one point, which I thought was pretty badass. He likes toting his little gun, and he's always smoking a cigar. It just feels like you're right. It feels like he could have easily been really quickly forgotten about. And I wonder if, without this movie, I mean, we're all sitting here. Harry, you've seen the movie a long time ago, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't really remember much about it. I remember, Howard.
You remember there being a duck in it. But yeah, you wonder, like, he hasn't been forgotten. He still remains, and I wonder how much of that is the legacy of the film as a cult status, as is. He's pretty much a side character up until issue 4 of that comic run. But you can tell straight away, it's meta as hell. The comic is heavily duck pun focused as well. Like, most of the references are duck puns, which you'll be glad I'm going to save that. Well, like, you already listened to it. Most of my duck puns have got out on the main episode.
But I think that's egotistical, though. Yeah. Like, if that duck planet, we don't walk around calling things like human foo. It's kung fu. No. Not like quack foo. Although I guess talk foo would be the equivalent.
Think you might be losing your mind. What are you on about?
Because quack is their version of talking.
Quacking. I mean, I enjoyed the 4 issues I read. I especially enjoyed 4. Once he kind of came into his own, and once he was almost a main character in his own story, it was kind of fun. He was fighting a one-shot villain called Garko the Man Frog, which was kind of funny. Never appears again, by the way. But there's a good level of sarcastic, sardonic humor that I understand why Lucas specifically was interested in this character. Like, I kind of understand maybe trying to make a film out of it. We're gonna get a bit more into the film, but I don't want to blow my wad.
It's got Lucas all over, hasn't it?
Right? Yeah. Just it's an interesting. It's an interesting take on the kind of one-shot heroes that I'm actually quite happy that he has still lasted and he has still stuck around.
But while Gerber was fucked off with this whole Howard the Duck changing thing, while he was fucked off, he wrote an episode where
he was fucked up at Disney, right? This is just because I think...
he was fucked up at Disney, but then obviously Marvel changed because who the fuck cares if he's changed how he looks? Gerber cared a lot. So he wrote an episode where Howard was put through a Blendertron. His personality was meant to be changed. I think he went through the machine twice, and he put pants on him. By the end of the episode, he comes out the exact same duck in the last panel as him walking away, showing his bare ass to the audience.
Good, fucking good.
Started suing Marvel for the rights to Howard Duck because it was his creation. Obviously, he created it while he was working with Marvel. They won. He has no rights to it.
Yeah.
But they use that as... Well, they used he was late on a few issues to fire him. Later on, they just threw the hands up, was like, nah, fuck that. He was suing us. Didn't make sense to keep him on.
Well, this is the weird thing. I wonder how long was Gerber working for Marvel then? Because he was heavily involved in the making of the film.
Right, so he's on and off with Marvel. It ends in some petty revenge.
You're gonna have to delve into that one.
So after 27 issues, Gerber ended up stopping. This was the second time they asked him to come back. And there was another comic at the same time going called Howard's Further Adventures. This was a black and white panel, and it was more popular than Howard the Duck after Gerber left. So that kind of got main billing and and Howard the Duck got pushed back to irregular episodes.
Yes.
There was only 9 of them, and apparently they were shit anyway, so they won't give a fuck.
I mean, just to piggyback off that, I did read that Gerber had a lot of like moments where he would write really, really well, and he'd be praised for how fantastic his writing was, and then the next week he'd write total garbage dog shit. And he literally blamed me. He was like, "It's just my creative process. Sometimes I'm great, sometimes I'm terrible," and I resonate the fuck with that because that's exactly how I feel as a writer and as a creative.
Isn't that what you get though when you've got comic book writers though in general? Because you're having to release so much content.
Yeah, I mean,
the chances are you're going to have like a lot of hit and misses because of the fact that you're having to produce something so so frequently. Whereas like a lot of authors don't have to do that. They put their ideas in one thing, then wait a while and start again.
Talking to you, George R.R. Martin.
Well, it's like, on that whole like tortured poet soul thing that Liam loves, he moved to LA and he was like having a hard time because he was moving. It was stressful. So instead of putting out a substandard episode, he wrote this cute episode where it's him talking to Howard and just talking through his experiences of like writing and how difficult it can be sometimes, and like discussing why sometimes it's bad and sometimes it's good.
I think that's cute as a meta idea. I really appreciate that. Like, I didn't hate the episodes I read, the issues I read. They were quite cute.
Sounds like an episode of Mrs. Doubtfire. The end of Mrs. Doubtfire where she's got the TV show. Talking to the monkey.
But yeah, these 9 issues that they did afterwards, they were trying to be edgy because they had the mature go-ahead, and it failed. It just became lewd, and then instead of being like socially conscious, it just became like poking fun at pop culture, which was such an overdone gimmick back then as well. I just
like Deadpool for that, haven't you? I don't know if Deadpool's around at that point, but that was his function.
That's his function, universe, isn't it? Yeah. It's exactly what he's for. Obviously, Gerber, they couldn't get the magic back without them, so they asked him to come back. But he made one script, the editor changed it, and he was just like, fuck yous all.
Fair enough. No.
So yeah, Howard's been making cameos for 20 years, but petty revenge did happen. It came. So
it's story time with Ryan. I'm
story time. This is going to be a nice little monologue from me. So in 1990, Garber did go back to Marvel and he did She-Hulk comics, and that was like a comedy comic. And in 1996, they wanted him to return. But in that period, while I was writing She-Hulk, he had Howard back in, and he was expecting it to be this big, like, oh, creator is reunited with his creation. How great is this? And try and push that. Marvel didn't do that. And that was petty enough for him to take his revenge. So then he started doing a comic with Destroyer Duck and Savage Dragon, different company. And they'd said to him, we want you to do a crossover with Howard the Duck and another superhero. They picked Spider-Man in the end.
Yay!
And he's like, oh, fuck, I can't. I'm already doing the Savage Dragon stuff. What we can do, though, is have a swapsies. Howard will appear in the background of ours, and you get Savage and our Duck in the background of yours for an episode. They were like, fucking great, yeah. Even better, we get a twist on the twist because they were looking for a gimmick. Not only do we get Howard back with his creator, we also get a crossover with a separate comic book.
God, Marvel's quite clever, really, aren't they? They know what they're doing. They know how to play the system, I guess. They know how to like get...
Until they went almost bankrupt.
Until then.
Which again...
And then Disney took over, ironically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why I think this is such a fascinating story, and especially in the landscape we're in today with the Marvel films. I mean, MCU and Disney, they are the paramours of the industry. You can't really turn your head or swing a cat without hitting a new Marvel film. I mean, we'll talk about it in a minute whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But you often forget they come from really troubled kind of, you're right, bankruptcy, and Howard the Duck being their biggest fucking movie failure of all time, and it was their first real attempt at making a movie. I mean, unless you have any more fascinating facts, thank you, by the way. Right?
We didn't get to the revenge part.
Oh, shit, sorry. Go.
That just shows that Liam wasn't listening the entire time.
Well, no attention.
Right, okay.
So Marvel were fucking rubbing the greedy little hands thinking, fucking this is perfect. So then they did the crossover, and Spider-Man, Howard got Darkwing, and it was fine, they were in the background. Marvel were just like, yeah, whatever, just take him, he's going to be in the background. Like, what damage are you going to do, really? So just to be petty, the episode entirely focuses around Destroyer Duck and Savage Dragon abducted Howard and Beverly.
they wrap them up in duct tape.
I'm glad you got that one out.
Yeah,
Might have to steal it again in the future when we do the first one.
Well, if you do it in the next episode when we film the remaining episode, you will technically do it first, Ryan. Because we're releasing these in a different order.
Anyone who doesn't know who Beverly is, that's like the main love interest, Howard's main squeeze. That's based on Mary Screeney's, that's the core right there. So she was captured along with Howard because she's the other important character. And they are cloned and left a cheap imitation in their place. So, canonized is that Howard Duck in any Marvel appearance after that is just a fake Howard the Duck.
No.
It's not the real Howard who is currently living in the Savage Dragonland.
Bullshit.
So that means the movie that we watched, are about to watch, doesn't feature the real Howard, as does any comic. And Marvel put out a PSA just say, yeah, we were thoroughly played.
Fucking hell, alright. That's, yeah, I mean, that's definitely, that's almost Shakespearean in revenge and tragedy there, Ryan.
Really cool way for Disney to get their own back, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if this guy's still alive, so I don't know if
Gerber, I think he is.
But if he is,
so, yeah.
really cool way to fuck him over would just be, because obviously they're getting a TV series of She-Hulk, so they just put Howard the Duck in some form in that. And like,
oh, yeah, it's in the past, it counts. Fuck.
Oh, wow, yeah, fuck
so
yeah.
they could put him in that in some way. So.
Don't tell Disney. Nobody tell Disney.
When this comes out, I'm going to tag Disney in it, and they're obviously going to listen to this, and they're going to bring me over to Marvel like, you should write for us. And I'll be like, I don't know how to write or read.
I can confirm this is true.
Good news for all our listeners. Hannah and Jack have rocked up, so they're just in time for listener questions. So we're going to do an unscheduled break and get them set up.
Should we put a record?
Doodle-doo. Doodle-doo.
Oh no, it should just be quack quack.
Doodle-doo. Oh, Hannah started talking to
Again,
me.
like herding fucking cats. Welcome back to part 2 of Point 5. Hannah, I'm giving you the biggest death stares right now because you've done what, 20 odd episodes of this. Like we're like counting Point 5. Counting Point 5, you've done 20 plus episodes of this, and you still don't know how microphones work. And I think that's a problem, and you should solve it. Welcome back to Howard the Duck, a history and listener questions. We've managed to pick 2 up on the way. So say hi, guys. Hannah and Jack are with us in the building.
Hey,
I'm just passing through.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, just take your paycheck and leave, kind of thing.
I'm just waiting for someone else to talk over them.
Harry's also here still. He hasn't left yet. He hasn't been scared away just yet.
We asked him to leave once, but he just kind of
he just won't leave. We can't get rid of him. He's like mold. We are here to do a little bit of listener questions now. Obviously, we've done a little bit of history of. We are going to delve into what you guys think about the current state of Marvel, and also kind of a little bit of Marvel history. Harry is already fucking fuming. We're going to talk about the polls we did on Instagram first, because I decided before this we're going to do a little poll, see what you guys think about Marvel in general. And we got some interesting opinions, probably what I expected, but let's run through them. Let's just see if you guys agree, disagree, or just completely want to tell all the audience to fuck off. It's entirely up to you. Poll 1, we asked, do you still regularly go see Marvel movies in the cinema? I'm going to ask this as a round robin, so Jack, Hannah, you two, you regularly see?
We've been meaning to go see Black Widow, but we just haven't gotten around to it.
I think
but
as
yeah,
well,
the intention's there.
I think, the intention's there, but we've also got cinema cards, so we go and see whatever comes out. Now, would I go pay to see every Marvel film?
That's a good question.
No. I think it would depend on the Marvel film. Like, I will pay and probably go see Doctor Strange. I quite like Doctor Strange, but I won't pay and go see... I've forgotten.
You should have done this to
Marvel
yourself.
Movies.
You set yourself up there.
Literally, pick what way. I want her to actually pick a Marvel movie she wouldn't go and see.
She's right. I can see what the point is trying to make.
Captain America.
Okay.
Well, not a big fan.
Like some of the best ones.
No, I was just going to say, like, we pay for those, like, X pounds per month cinema passes.
Yeah.
And I think it does change your perspective.
Oh,
because you've dragged me some films, I've gone, I can't believe I paid £10 to watch that.
Yeah.
Whereas now you see a shit film, and you're like, like we went to go see Space Jam: A New Legacy the other week, and I was like, yeah, it was alright. It was a 2-hour long advert, but it was all right.
Do you guys want to do the podcast with Harry?
Had I paid £10 to go and see it, I feel like I would have been a bit more cynical about it.
This guy's dying to see it. Like, he keeps trying to drag.
You know what? It's fun.
It is fun.
It's a long advert for
if
Warner
you go
Brothers
in with zero expectations and just
you're gonna actually sell Space Jam and New Legacy to me,
rather than with it, then you can have them in
So it's a bad taste buds movie.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
It's obviously best.
We'll do it in 10 years. We'll do it in season 10.
Literally, most of the feedback that I heard for that was Nah, it was shit. Lola Bunny wasn't hot. What's the point?
Well, that's a good point. So, but you, I mean, me and you still see. I mean, again, because we're similar to you guys, and you as well, Harry. We all have cinema cards here. We all paid like a standard fee a month, and I'll see anything.
I think I'd go see the Marvel movies anyway.
You think you would? Yeah. 20 of the people who voted said they would. 15 said they wouldn't. So it's actually not that much of a difference.
People are liars.
50
But then, how many of those people wouldn't go pay to see it in the cinema because they know that the big Marvel releases will be released on like streaming services relatively quickly?
If it helps, I think 14 of those 15 people all George from Tipsy Flicks, just under different accounts. You're calling you out there, buddy. Yeah, you're right. It's a weird one. I do almost feel like, especially with Black Widow, I wouldn't say underperforming, but like kind of like not really driving the big crowds. It was good.
It did well.
It did well, but it's not being talked. It's never been talked about as like a big fucking staple.
I didn't think it did anywhere near as well as I thought it was gonna. I thought it was
still during the pandemic, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
I suppose. Yeah.
I also think Marvel have got a very good job of the FOMO approach, where you're worried you're going to miss something significant.
Literally,
You miss one film and you're going to miss something significant. Like, I've not got around to watching Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier yet.
Every person I say Captain Falcon.
Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But I've not gotten around to seeing it. I watched the first episode and it was fine. It was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not pissing my pants to go and finish the series. But there's a part of me that's like, but what if something is significant that I'm going to need to see for another film and things? You know, you still get that Marvel kind of. They've got
like having the new Captain America.
Drilled in here, like it's like fucking Pokemon. You've got to catch them all.
That's it. You're going to start and you're just going to see Captain America and the Falcon being the same person, and it's just like all that backstory of how it happened gets missed. They do it so you miss it, so you have to watch more of the shit to be entrenched in the universe completely.
Isn't it really? They keep making you want more.
And they let you know you're only getting half a story as well.
I know you. You're a big fanboy. You're going to see everything.
I'm a huge fanboy. I actually think that Marvel is going to be on the upward swing. I think they are learning lessons, albeit maybe slow. Yeah, but I think they are on like a potential upward swing. Like, think of the next Doctor Strange movie and how well they've set it up with Loki and WandaVision. And they've learned some lessons about villains, not perfectly, and they're not going to get all the villains correctly, but we are getting some better villains as we go along.
Actually, to be fair, they have hit it out the park recently with their series. Like, WandaVision was class, but Loki was even better.
I'll posit this then. They're all TV shows. So is Marvel going to... People aren't going to see... The question was, do you regularly see Marvel movies in the cinema? Do you think the TV shows are then going to detract from that, or do you think it's going to benefit it?
I think it'll add it, add to it.
I think in terms of just hopping on what Ryan said about the upward swing, I think getting characters back like the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, there's going to be that upward swing because everyone's curious to see what Marvel's going to do, and are Marvel going to do it well, which they inevitably will. Yeah. And I think also with the bad guys thing, they have learned from their mistakes. They're not just killing off bad guys. True. And early on, I think that was an early mistake. Like, look at Killmonger killing them off. Yeah. Now with the multiverse, you've got the potential to bring people back, but keeping villains around, like Kang's going to be a persistent thing for the future. Not killing off Agatha Harkness. Like you've got all of these things that have kept the villains in the back where they can always bring them into the future. Yeah, man. Future stories, which I think is a clever move for them.
So fuck 15 of you.
But do you not think that Marvel movies will die with a generation then, instead?
Well, me and George have had this conversation. Marvel films and superhero films of this generation are just the westerns of like the 60s
This is
70s.
Exactly. Like, westerns were a huge thing. You had absolutely every sort of type of western, and they evolved with the generation that they were released with, and then eventually they died out afterwards. So will superhero films be the same thing? Because you're already in that sort of place where you're starting to get satire of the superhero things that are coming out. So it's like they're already taking the mick of their own genre and their own stuff that they're bringing out. Like, at what point does that sort of just die?
But then you look at stuff like Star Wars and Marvel's like essentially like this generation's Star Wars, and the merchandising behind it is going to ensure that the new generations coming through are constantly going to be hooked on the characters that we're getting. So I think realistically moving forward, like you're always going to have with a pump of toys, cartoons, video games, all that kind of stuff, you're going to constantly ensure that there's an audience there for it.
Yeah, and bearing in mind, a lot of these characters have been around since like the Second World War as well. Yeah. Engagement might come in ebb and flow and come in waves and stuff, but the characters have been solid intellectual properties for whoever DC
pretty much a century now, right? Like,
at least. Best part of that.
Yeah. I will say that no empire lasts forever, and specifically movie-wise, there will be a point where something else becomes the mainstream. And the frequency at which we're getting these movies and the quality will inevitably take some form of dip or die out. And it might go like TV shows more or streaming services rather than like the big cinema box office of the year.
Where everything's an Adam Sandler comedy again.
No, please.
Based on the
TV's future as well.
Well, TV is the future, and also the Netflix algorithm.
I thought children were the future.
Slightly. Wow. Well, let's move on to Paul 2 because we spent 10 minutes on one of them, so let's try. I mean, we've got a lot to say. So Paul 2 was on about quality, whether or not Marvel movies have increased or decreased in quality since the forming of the MCU. So that's Iron Man onwards, increased or decreased. What? Round robin again.
Name the last genuinely bad Marvel film.
Bad.
Yeah.
So I think
I'll get to,
objectively speaking, not subjectively.
Objectively, I don't know if any of them I would qualify as bad.
They're all competent.
However, and I'm going to be that guy, I would much rather sit and watch any of the early X-Men films, any of the early Spider-Man films, rather than repeating any of the MCU films.
Yeah, but you're
bad taste.
I know I wank off regularly to Sam Raimi. That's just my jam. But I just think there's a little bit more. I mean, there's nostalgia there for me as well because that's what I grew up with. So there's that.
I think there's definitely in the Marvel films. I think there's definitely ebbs and flows of quality. I think Iron Man 2, Thor 2, Captain America 2 were all the weakest of their respective trilogies.
Winter Soldier's fucking awesome.
It's good, but I think it's the weakest of the respective trilogies.
I would respectfully disagree.
When you've got a genre,
I think Civil War's better.
No, I think Winter Soldier is my favourite Marvel
film. Civil War for me is 100% worse than
well, fair enough.
Soldier.
But like Iron Man 2, I think, and Thor 2 were probably the weakest.
I'll agree with you on them ones, yeah.
But then you've also got to play into the fact that when you've got a genre that's so oversaturated with so many things, you're going to have a few bad eggs.
That's it, especially when on average the bar is set pretty high,
and they're all watchable. That's the thing; none of them are genuinely bad.
But are they all rewatchable?
Yeah,
I would say the average person would agree. Yeah,
I think even look what Endgame did with 4-2 Dark World. Right, it made that rewatchable because they brought elements of that film back into Endgame. So people will then go back and watch 4. So I thought that was quite bad. I'll go back and watch that.
Okay. So I mean, we're very split down the middle. So 16 people said they decreased in quality. 18 said they increased.
Like I said in the literally last poll, I think it's took a dive. They made a lot of mistakes along the way, but they are learning, and it's got a lot of potential for the upward swing, especially with Disney Plus having TV shows that are giving us a multiverse now. It's a golden opportunity, and if they play it right, which they probably will because it's Marvel, it's going to take a massive upward swing. It should, in theory, be great for a while.
I think the best Marvel films have been within the MCU. But then again, the sheer volume of films they've been churning out in the past sort of 12 years means it's kind of just playing the averages a little bit.
Again, this is what I mean. I'm going to be that little contrarian who sits here saying, they're good, they're well-made films. I don't know if they're great movies.
But how much of that is just your preference to film?
I think a lot of that is George rubbing off on me.
It's also also because you are the most nostalgic fucking 20-year-old ever.
I watch the Raimi Spider-Mans once a year. That's how much I
rewatched them recently, and I struggled to get through them. Genuinely, there's only out of all Marvel movies, there's only one or two that would get in my top 10 that aren't MCU.
Okay.
And that's maybe Logan and
Logan's great.
Into Spider-Verse. As for the decline of Marvel movies, the last 3 films that we got from the MCU, Black Widow, it was solid, but it wasn't anything special. You got Far From Home, which I thought was really, really good.
Yeah, agreed.
And Endgame.
Yeah.
Anyone who says Endgame isn't a good film for me. And it isn't a good movie. Right? I just don't think you actually appreciate the genre at all.
But I often wonder, they're more events than movies is my problem. They're always, I don't think I've ever seen a Marvel film or an MCU film, more than once, because they're really good events. They're kind of perfect popcorn movies. You sit in the cinema, and I'm probably in the minority here.
I'm here to back you up a bit. Objectively, he has some points. How many movies have they had where it is just a sky beam? It's lots of sky beams. We discussed earlier how the villains, a lot of the time, are badly done. The generic or the motivations are terrible, or they kill them off and they don't get any opportunity for development. So while they are competently done movies, every single one, you do have those misses, and there are reasons for those. Objectively,
when I'm in the cinema, I enjoy them there. And I think they're well-made movies, but I do almost think they almost fall in a corporate mandate system. A lot of them, not all of them. A lot of them, you can see this passion there. Usually, when a director steps out, like Taika, when Taika stepped up and took
Ragnarok,
and you can see there was lots of Lovecraft there. And I'm specifically, I think Black Widow has soured me a little bit because it's such a corporate mandate movie. It's we've got to get this one out. I just don't want that to become the trend.
I thought you really enjoyed it up until a certain point.
Up until the last act, yeah, because the first two were like really cool spy thriller, and then the last act is Marvel movie. It's the same movie. But, I mean...
On our review of Black Widow, Liam also said it was lovely to be back in the
It was nice to be back to see it. But again, because they're events. You're right, it's like you go
I
with
literally
friends.
edited it, and it's releasing. So it'll be released by the time it's out.
Let's move on.
I'll send it over to you, Ryan, so you can play it at this point.
Let's move quickly on to the next one.
You said that.
I think we're all going to agree with this one. 26 people said that MCU films were mostly good, whereas only 9 people said they were mostly bad. I think that's probably a consensus there.
It doesn't make sense on the voting, though, does it?
Those 9 people are allowed.
It's like they say, generally there's been a decline, but they're mostly good.
No, because that's kind of where
you can't fall if you never rose.
It's kind of where I'm going. Because I think when I personally think of Marvel masterpieces, I think of X2, I think of Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, I think of Logan. I don't think I'd pull any from the MCU.
I think Iron Man, the original Iron Man,
it's good. It's a good.
I think
film.
X-Men Days of Future Past as well.
But that was the groundbreaker.
First Class.
First Class is brilliant.
Was what I meant.
I don't know if this is like controversial, but I think there's only like maybe 3 X-Men films that I think are really good.
This is important.
X2 is one of my favorite films of all time, so
Logan,
be careful.
First Class, and maybe the first X-Men.
Or
Deadpool.
When was the last time you saw X2? Because X2 is fucking
I watched them
awesome.
more recently. Do you know what? I watch these films over and over again.
Mutants Unite.
Like this is my life. Like, I literally watch them over and over. Even if I don't think they're that good, like I'll still watch them.
Fair enough.
The MCU are all good, and the rest of them.
So
I do love the first 2.
Are you getting tired of their dominance over the industry? 23 people said yes and 12 said no.
It's nice to see a property from DC doing well with James Gunn's Suicide Squad, at least.
I mean, if you listen to the Pick a Mix, we have a
competition. It's like anything, man. Competition's healthy for the industry. I haven't seen it myself yet, but I've heard like pretty positive reviews, like 7 out of 10, blah blah blah.
It's a well-made film that I'm just a bit sick of. That's all. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say on the matter.
I know it is a strange one to just completely reboot the franchise within 4 or so years of the last
same
one.
Story as well.
Well, I said this on the Pick and Mix podcast. I said to them, if this had come out at a different time, if this had come out first, I would probably be much more positive on it. But I'm just tired of this format of not necessarily superhero films, but it's the team up movie where one of them is a half talking animal that only speaks in "I am Groot." It's just the same fucking format.
It's R-rated Guardians.
It's R-rated Guardians, yeah. But it's still fun. It's still a good-ish movie. Would you be upset if Marvel movies took a hiatus? 72% said no. 26% said yes.
I think my answer's too obvious. So yeah.
Can I caveat it with if we keep getting TV stuff, then no, I wouldn't be that sad.
I'm going to say no as well, but only on like the kind of Assassin's Creed syndrome kind of grounds.
Yeah, right.
Where it becomes like an annual release and it's like you can set your watch to it. And then it becomes formulaic, it becomes predictable, it becomes stagnant, you know? And I think Assassin's Creed games, like, I love the first few, but then it was just the same game over and over again.
4, wasn't it?
They rebooted it a little bit with Origins and Odyssey and things, but then they're just rebooting Origins with Odyssey and Odyssey with Valhalla. So
it's a different skin.
They've reset the formula a little bit, but now they're back into Assassin's Creed syndrome, where it's kind of releasing the same film or same game every year, like clockwork again.
It's just oversaturation, you're absolutely right. But, I mean, that was kind of the end, for me.
Can I just say as well, though, I mean, with the infinite amount of comic book storylines they can pull from, I think in terms of getting the same story over again, I think now they've got all the characters back. I think there's going to be a lot more different content we're going to get, especially with the likes of Kang and the multiverse coming up. There's so many different things they can do. It is really exciting if you like the genre. If you don't, I can understand why you get bored of it, but you're wrong.
I think the TV shows are a good way of putting the feelers out. Do you know what I mean? Putting the feelers out, seeing who people really react well to and things like that, and then building the bigger movies on the ones that have got the most excitement.
Yeah.
So
I've never thought of it like that. That's a really good point.
They might this might be what they do going forward. Like the whole Loki series, you could do a film at the end of this on whatever comes at the end, but let's put the feelers out first and see which aspects people enjoy and which part.
Out of curiosity, what is cheaper to make?
6 seasons of the movie.
What is cheaper to make, a series of TV or a film?
I think it would depend on how many episodes you're there.
So let's say like
how
many episodes did WandaVision have?
It was like 6 to 8, right? Was it 9? Was it right?
Yeah, because they had 9, but they were shorter, whereas Loki had 6, but they were like feature length, weren't they? They were like 45
I still think you're
minutes.
going to look at movies being a little bit more expensive. I think when
then the return you
factor
get for them is a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of general expenses, I think TV's you get less return, but
I mean, TV's bankable at the minute.
Subscription based,
everyone's subscribed to everything, so
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, just in this room, how many subscriptions do you think are just sitting in
Disney,
this very
Amazon,
room?
Netflix on our household?
I've got literally everything.
Yeah, I think I was going to cancel my Disney and then fucking
even got Apple
Loki
TV.
came out.
To be fair,
Disney is so good at eking you out, man.
it's going up £1 a month though.
Fuck you, Disney.
Seriously,
yeah, but we will pay it for Bad Batch.
Yeah,
we will
but Bad
pay
Batch
it
is
for
nearly
Loki.
over.
Is that good?
Bad Batch is wicked.
But watch Clone Wars first.
I've watched all Clone Wars.
Yeah. Bad Batch is wicked, but it's only got 3 episodes left.
And Rebels, because it's got a lot into Rebels.
I love Rebels.
It's nice to know this turned into a Star Wars podcast.
Sorry, guys.
I'm just going to invite these two to a Star Wars podcast.
Mike Knight Official, who is also a really, really cool guy. He's a great podcast. They do lots of informative kind of personal stuff. They did one on marriages and breakup and family matters last. It was really, really good. Really hysterical guys. Go give them some love.
Thanks, M. Night.
Mike Knight. They asked us who our favourite Marvel superhero is. I'm just going to do this as a really quick round robin. I'm going to say Spider-Man, and I'm not going to explain myself. Go.
See, so I looked at this earlier, and I'm not going to be able to come up with one. I will say, as a little gay kid, I have a soft spot for X-Men. That whole thing there I relate to, and in general, you get a good range of powers, and also I was young and teens trying to adapt to a world.
So your favorite superhero is all of the X-Men.
Yes, that's my answer.
I love Quicksilver, but that's again X-Men. But I'm saying yeah.
Because he's fast.
He's just mint, isn't he?
He's pretty mint.
He's
pretty mint.
Everyone loves the comic relief character, who's also incredibly overpowered.
Yeah,
he's OP as fuck, and I just think he's mint.
I mean, if we're going hero, Sentry or Nova.
Okay.
Probably.
I know very little of both of them.
Yeah, they're both
I don't like Nova very much.
I don't care. Tell them. But in terms of overall favorite character from comics, Carnage is 100% hands down my favorite character.
You excited for Venom 2?
No, because I'm going to ruin it.
In terms of a TV/film adaptation, I'm going to say Netflix's Daredevil.
Fair enough, man. Again, not something I've not watched yet.
Hang on. The same reason I can't stand him is the same reason I don't like what's his name, Tobey Maguire. They've got a face you just want to slap.
What, Charlie? I can't remember the actor's name. Is
Charlie Cox.
He's great, man. He's in Boardwalk Empire. He's fucking awesome.
I know it's unpopular, but no.
He's got a nice butt. He's
lovely from behind.
Yeah.
That's Hell's Kitchen's butt.
Yeah, sounds like a nice, concise answer there, boys and girls. Brad Kelsey, long-time listener, he always asks us questions. Love this guy. Is it all downhill for Marvel after Endgame? Do you think it's something they can continue with the consistency and the kind of excitement levels after Endgame? I have very little opinion on this.
No.
You don't think it's downhill?
No, I don't. I just think they'll go in a different avenue. They've covered off this sort of thing, and they've done it to its extent, and now they've, like I said with the TV shows, they're putting out the feelers, and they've got different ways to go around. I mean, think about it. The TVA cannot just be one series. Yeah. Right? That's a big plot point. That's bigger than Thanos. They made that very evident, didn't they? That it's much bigger.
Yeah, Infinity Stones are paperweights at the TVA. Yeah. I think if they continue with exactly the same formula, then yes, it would go downhill. But I think that, as Hannah said, they're putting out the feeders and they're trying weird stuff. WandaVision was freaky. And some episodes where it's what cursed shit have I just watched? And if they continue to try and expand their horizons and try things from a different angle, then I think they'll probably have success with it. But yeah, if they just try and repeat exactly the same formula and building up this sort of interwebbed thing and then just have another end game, then yeah, it probably will be underwhelming because they've done Endgame and they try to do it again, it won't have the same effect.
That's fair. No, I think
it's not going to go downhill, but they've got two of the biggest, what you call them, separate franchises coming into the MCU and X-Men and Fantastic Four. They're going to be fine. Fantastic Four are the most popular comic book series ever. So realistically,
there's never been a good film adaptation of
until
them.
Marvel do it. Until MCU do it.
Disney won't let this fail. I think Disney
Kevin Feige at the helm is until he leaves.
The proof is in Spider-Man. They skipped the origin story of Uncle Ben.
They did.
That's what you need to do because we had so many origin stories.
Fantastic Four film has been an origin story.
You skip it by having. Sorry for making this Marvel.
No.
Marvel podcast, but you have that by just having the Fantastic Four stuck in the quantum realm. There's all your origin stories sorted. And then you can bring them in, or just have them from an alternate timeline. Jump in. You don't need to explain it.
Are you listening?
Kevin Feige.
Is it Feige?
Yes.
Why do I always want to say Feige?
You did it on Alpha Channel.
It sounds like a
did it on the Pick and Mix, and I just laughed at him. I was like, "Sorry, what was that?" And he was like, "Kevin Feige."
He's trying to have a fake accent.
And he was like, "Kevin Feige." I was like,
"Because it sounds like a homophobic slur."
A little bit. Feige. So thank you, Brad Kelsey, for that one.
Thanks, Brad.
Ed the Reed, Ed Cooks. He's again an absolute lad. Love this question, by the way. Who is our favourite fictional duck?
President Duck from South Park.
Right, I'm glad you mentioned this one. It's a one-shot character.
It's a one-shot. This is where Stan starts growing up and he starts seeing the world's like the Matrix where everything is shit. Yeah. And he's in the cinema and President Duck quacks onto the screen. He just starts shitting all over documents to sign them. Yeah. Best duck. I'm going to go Scrooge McDuck because I love that. Again, like the Huey, Louie and Dewey. Is it Dewey? Huey, Louie and Dewey. Yeah. That kind of, I just really like that, like the DuckTales kind of the vibes. I love the theme song.
I think you've just taken mine, really, because it was all that sort of...
Well, you're not leaving until you come up with another one.
Fine. Well, I'm going to go with the classic Donald, then.
All right.
Love a classic Donald. Can anyone do?
Oh, yeah, she's just buying into Disney's bullshit.
No.
I love how I tried to do the voice there.
No.
You're usually good at impressions, so I'm surprised you can fuck.
No.
I think that's probably his...
My favourite's the Ugly Duckling.
Ugly Duckling.
My favourite is the goose from the
Wasn't a
Untitled
duck.
Goose Game.
Oh, also not a duck.
Is it?
Right, I fucking googled this. Right, ducks.
Geese
Geese
is way ducks.
Yeah, that's why I was googling ducks before. Right, because geese are subspecies of duck. Right, so yeah. So my favourite duck is the goose from the Untitled Goose Game.
Or in that case, then Black Swan.
Well done for doing your research.
That's a woman.
Fictional.
The question wasn't which duck would you fuck, Harry. It's which duck is your favourite. So.
Oh, then I changed my answer.
Right.
Oh, the Mighty Ducks.
Can I? Yeah, they aren't ducks. They are
quack. They quack.
Hockey teams.
Quack.
The reason I sped you guys through the last questions is because I have a full paragraph written for this one, but you are gonna let me monologue.
I'm gonna check on my phone.
I'm gonna let you guys go first. Least favourite comic book adaptation and why?
I've not read enough to have a least favourite, because the only ones I've read are like the peak, really.
What is worst comic book movie for you then?
No, I do actually. I've read recently the Poison Ivy, the new Poison Ivy one, and I thought it was a really cool premise, but I don't think they did it as good. I was really excited to read it actually, but it was just a bit of a...
Wasn't the question, but okay, thank you. Bye.
What was the question?
Worst comic book adaptation.
Oh, that was a comic book, wasn't it? Never mind, don't know.
Harry, go.
I mean, any of the Fantastic Four adaptations. I think they've never. I don't think they've still. I know you said you like Venom, Jack, but I don't think they've got Venom right yet.
Fight
at all.
Fight.
I think I'm really worried what they're going to do with Carnage, because I think the most recent trailer gives a lot away and it doesn't look great. But I think in general, just the main one for me has to be the adaptation of Galactus in the Fantastic Four film. It is horrendous. It's an insult to the creator.
Can I ask Harry a question about Venom?
No.
Yeah, if you want.
No, go for it.
If you hadn't read the comics though, would you have liked the movie more?
I didn't hate the movie. I thought the movie was fine. I just thought.
Do you think it set a bar for you?
I just don't think Venom is stupid, and I think they made him stupid.
Oh.
Which Venom do you prefer, Venom and Tom Hardy or Venom and Spider-Man?
100% Tom Hardy Venom, because Topher Grace. I mean, Venom isn't skinny.
But it was still the weakest of the three of the trilogy. But I think that's because they tried to do too much in one film.
It's Christopher Nolan fucking, thinking he's God.
But then again,
and also the fact that Heath Ledger died and it was unexpected, and he wasn't, he was meant to be there as well.
But there is only one correct answer to this question.
I mean, my
and it's the Green Lantern.
My 40...
I enjoyed that.
My 30-line paragraph says otherwise, but go. Yeah.
It's the Green Lantern.
I mean,
it doesn't need explaining.
It's an awful film. It's a terrible film. That CGI suit still haunts me to this very fucking day. I can't believe that got... You watched this recently, didn't you?
I enjoyed it. This is what I'm saying. I think I'm starting to like bad films.
Maybe.
Like, genuinely.
On the podcast.
Listen, objectively, it's a horrible film, but I actually quite enjoyed it, and I'm not a massive DC fanboy in terms of comic books, so I think it's probably why I had that detached from it.
You ready? You ready for the right answer?
Yeah, I'm checking on my stocks.
I have one more thing to say.
Go for it.
No, I was only joking.
So, my least favourite is not necessarily the one that's the worst, and that's Zack Snyder's Watchmen. Because I think it's the only one that A, should never have been made. I mean, it's more or less never talked about anymore. It's like it didn't cause enough interest or controversy to even be remembered that well. And while we're talking adaptations, it's not only an adaptation of one of the greatest graphic novels of all time, but it's the only graphic novel to ever get included on Time Magazine's 100 Greatest Novels of All Times list. And rightly so. It's one of the most biting political and social satires I've ever read. It deals with existential thought and time and grief and age unlike any book I've ever read. And it's so fucking smart. And it's so perfectly written. There's this ongoing meta-narrative throughout the whole fucking book, The Curse of the Black Freighter, that you consider. It's almost like throwaway in the novel until the very end, and you realise it's been this long, intertextual, layered analysis of the main villain and his deepest fears and everything he's doing, and it plays out through the entire novel. Zack Snyder's version is all plot, it's all narrative, and it's all look, and nothing else. It gets the skeleton, but it misses all the meat and all the heart and all the points. And in the end, it's this husk, it's this shell of what it could have been. You take one of the greatest books of all time and you completely strip it of anything that made it important or made it interesting or made it good, and it's just a look. If it was anything else, if it was anyone else, maybe like this. I think this is why I hate Snyder so much. I think it's why I was about to say
you do not like Snyder
because he just and that ending. Rorschach was not meant to die. Was not meant to die with someone else. Fucking Anakin Skywalker screaming no at him. He was meant to die alone because he was a symbol of the only lasting vestige of fucking.
I'm 30 seconds away from putting the Me Channel music on in the background. I've got it ready. Way. So, just give me the wink.
It's Watchmen for dummies, and I hate it.
So I actually agree with you, to be fair. I don't like the Watchmen.
Yeah, I've basically avoided reading the graphic novel just so when I say like I don't like it, no one can accuse me of it being because I've read the novel. I'm interested in it, but I refuse to. I really hated Watchmen. I thought it was really boring. I thought fuck all happened in it. I could barely keep up with what was happening. And I don't think I'm like movie illiterate. I'm pretty good at keeping up with films. It just felt dumb. Like it made very little sense in like context to what characterization everyone was meant to have.
It's just a husk. It's a husk of
it felt bad.
One of the best books of all time.
I'm currently reading it, so I'll be...
Have you seen the movie?
I have, but years ago. Years ago. And to be honest, I remember enjoying it, but I can't tell you the story.
I wonder whether your opinion will be different having reading
this is what I'm excited for.
Can I put it in context for you? Mm-hmm. Imagine Fahrenheit, one of our favourite books, Fahrenheit. Yep. Imagine a film that has all the plot, but none of like the heart or the love or the meaning. Like just
read your recommendation, guys. I'm pretty sure.
Right, Fahrenheit. Strip that. It's just a guy going around burning books, and then he's like, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't burn books," and he fucks off. That's what Snyder's Watching is to Alan Moore's Watching.
It's like the Twilight films to the books.
So sorry, I am a little bit I'm a little bit of a height now. So we're going to end, and this is the last question on a fun note.
Okay.
And I can always rely on Tipsy for our fun questions.
I quite enjoyed it.
I know you did, and that's why I'm not letting you speak.
I haven't read the comics, though, so fuck me, right?
Tipsy asked us, would you rather fight? And I want to
10 duck-sized horses.
How did you...
Is that actually the question?
Yeah, it's a question. No, it is. Would you rather fight one giant horse-sized duck or 20? He said 20.
So I have massive feet, and I could just walk through them and stomp on the duck horses, the little ones. I'd be fine.
Yeah.
No. One giant horse-sized duck, which I would tame and ride.
It's going to eat you. You're not going to tame that before it pecks you to death.
What a way to go!
You couldn't tame a horse.
I'd eat horses. I'd eat all of them.
I'm just thinking. That's a good.
Imagine how many pancakes a giant duck could make. Actually,
a food out of 20 horse-sized duck.
I've been to France. I've been to France and eaten horse. It tastes nice.
There we go. Thank you very much for all your questions, and thank you very much for putting up with us screaming into the mic for an hour. That was a passionate one. I mean, this will be releasing after our Howard the Duck episode, so this will be the last time we hear from Harry for a few weeks anyway. So, Harry, thank you so much for being on the episode.
Go wait in the hole with Greg.
Go back into the 13 ghost chamber of guests. Yeah. Do you want to give us a quick plug of where we can find you? I mean, we all should,
Yeah, just check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Pick a Mix podcast. Pick a Mix? I don't know what I'm called.
You got this, buddy.
Yeah, it's the Pick a Mix podcast. Liam's a regular on there, so come over and give us a listen. We check out all the new movies and stuff. We often have discussions about, who's your favourite superhero and stuff like that. It's not particularly Marvel heavy, even though I am a Marvel nerd. We've done a lot of good films. Our Black Widow episode is currently out, and then Suicide Squad afterwards, so it's quite comic book heavy at the minute, but shortly we'll be doing Dune when it comes out, and all the other good films. So check us out there. Thank you very much.
Leave us some love. And from the rest of us, thank you very much for putting up with us, and we will see you next week.
Whack, whack.
Quack.
My God.